6 months ago, I was afraid to speak in English. Not just shy, truly afraid. Every time someone said something in English, my heart would start racing. I could hear the words, but I couldn't respond. I would freeze, smile nervously, nod even when I didn't understand. I used to think something was wrong with me. Why can other people speak so confidently, and I can't? I had studied English in school for over 10 years, but the truth is, I couldn't even hold a simple conversation. I could write basic sentences, maybe fill in the blanks in a grammar worksheet. But ask me to talk about myself? I was lost. I grew up in a place where English was seen as a status symbol. If you spoke it well, people respected you. If you didn't, they assumed you were uneducated, even if you were smart in other things. I remember once in college, during a group presentation, I had to say just one paragraph in English, just 4 lines. But when my turn came, my hands trembled. I forgot the words. Everyone stared at me, and someone in the back laughed. That moment stayed with me. After that, I avoided every situation that required English. Interviews, events, even conversations with new people. I began building a shell around myself, but inside, I was hurting. Because I knew I was capable. I could express myself so well in my native language. I had thoughts, opinions, stories, but English kept them trapped inside. It was like watching the world through a glass window, close, yet unreachable. I wanted to break that barrier, not to show off, not to impress people, just so I could live fully, communicate, connect, and feel free. At night, I would dream of speaking fluently, giving speeches, making friends around the world. And then I would wake up, and reality would hit me again. One day, I decided something. I had enough of this fear, enough of feeling small. I told myself, give English 6 months, just 6 months of real effort. No excuses, no waiting for motivation, just do the work. That day changed everything. What happened next? I'll tell you the full truth, step by step. Month 1, my small beginning. The first month was all about facing reality. I had no magical method, no secret course, and no teacher to guide me. But I had one thing: determination. My goal was simple: not to master English in 30 days, but to build a habit. I knew that if I could create a small routine, I could change the way I approach the language. So I started with just 30 minutes a day. That was all I promised myself. Not perfection, not fluency, just 30 honest minutes every day. No matter how busy I was. I divided those 30 minutes into 3 parts: listening, reading, and speaking. First, I began my mornings with a short English cartoon like Peppa Pig. Yes, it sounds childish, but that's exactly why it worked. The language was slow, clear, and easy to follow. I would watch one episode every morning with subtitles. At first, I didn't understand everything, but I didn't stop to translate. I let the words flow. Over time, I started recognizing patterns. I want. I need. Let's go. These small phrases began building my confidence. Next, I read simple stories online. I searched for children's short stories or beginner English books. I didn't worry about understanding every word. I just read and tried to get the meaning from the context. When I found a word I didn't know, I guessed its meaning, and only then would I look it up. I kept a notebook, my English diary, where I wrote 5 new words a day, along with 1 sentence using each word. It wasn't about memorizing, it was about touching the language. And then came the hardest part: speaking. I was alone, so I spoke to myself. In the mirror, while walking, even during chores. I would say simple things like, I am cooking rice, or today is sunny. I recorded myself once a week and listened back. It was strange, and honestly, I sounded awkward. But that didn't matter, because for the first time, I was using my voice. And that voice, weak as it was growing stronger. By the end of month 1, I couldn't say I was fluent. But I could say this: I was no longer afraid to start. And that was everything. Month 2, creating a routine that worked.
From this moment, I'm speaking fast and with confidence. You think I am speaking fast, so no more hesitation. Let's go, my friend. In the second month, I realized something important. Consistency matters more than intensity. In the first month, I had pushed myself to do a little every day, but now I needed to level up. Not by adding hours, but by adding structure. I wanted to be strategic. I began designing a simple daily routine that would touch every skill: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. This routine wasn't about chasing fluency, it was about creating balance and flow. If I could train all 4 skills together, I could build a strong foundation. Each morning, I started my day with audio. I downloaded English podcasts meant for beginners. One of my favorites was The English We Speak by BBC. I would listen to just 5 minutes while brushing my teeth or preparing breakfast. During this time, I wasn't sitting down to study. I was just allowing my ears to absorb the rhythm of English. After listening, I would try to summarize what I heard in 1 or 2 sentences using my own words. This trained my memory and helped me start forming sentences naturally. In the evening, I spent 15 minutes on speaking. I chose one simple topic per day, like my favorite food or a place I want to visit. I would record myself talking about it for 1 minute. Then I would listen and ask myself, did I speak clearly? Did I pause too much? Did I use correct grammar? I didn't judge myself, I just observed. This made me aware of my progress and gave me the courage to continue. On weekends, I even tried speaking with a language partner online, just for 5 minutes. Month 2 taught me that fluency doesn't come from doing everything at once. It comes from doing small things with care. My routine wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and that made all the difference. Month 3. Thinking in English begins. By the 3rd month, something incredible began to happen. I started thinking in English. It didn't happen all at once. It wasn't like flipping a switch. It was gradual, almost invisible. But one day, I noticed that when I saw a cat, my mind didn't say the word in my native language. It said, cat. When I wanted to drink water, I didn't think, instead of this, another word comes to my mind. I need water. That moment was magical, because it meant I was no longer translating. I was finally living in the language. To make this shift stronger, I made a big change. I stopped using subtitles. When watching videos, I forced myself to focus only on the audio. At first, it was frustrating. I felt like I understood nothing, but my brain worked harder. It listened more carefully. And slowly, I began to catch words, then phrases, then entire sentences. I also began to read English content without a dictionary. If I didn't understand something, I skipped it. I told myself, understanding 80% is enough. Don't let 20% stop you. Another big step I took was to write my thoughts in English. Every night, I opened a notebook and wrote about my day in English. I didn't worry about grammar. I just wrote. Today, I went to the market. I met an old friend. We laughed about school memories. It felt like talking to a friend. This daily writing exercise helped me discover my own voice. I wasn't copying sentences from a book. I was creating my own English. In month 3, I also started speaking longer sentences. Instead of saying, "I like food," I began saying, "One of my favorite things to do is trying new food from different cultures." I practiced storytelling. I recorded stories from my childhood in English and shared them with my language partners. They corrected me gently. I listened to their stories too. It felt like building a new world through words. By the end of month 3, my confidence had grown. I wasn't fluent yet, but I was fluent in my own thoughts. I could think in English, dream in English, and even joke a little, and that was a big milestone. Month 4. Conversations that changed everything. Month 4 was the turning point when English stopped being a subject and started becoming a connection. I wasn't just practicing alone anymore. I was using English with real people, in real conversations, and those interactions changed everything. I joined 2 online language exchange apps, Hello Talk and Tandem. At first I was nervous. What if they judged me? What if I made mistakes? But I reminded myself, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being understood. So I sent my first hello. The conversations started slowly. I introduced myself, asked basic questions, and sometimes used a translator. But people were kind. They corrected me gently, encouraged me, and even praised my effort. I began making friends from different countries: Japan, Brazil, Egypt, France. We talked about our cultures, hobbies, favorite movies. I learned phrases I'd never read in textbooks, like, "That's awesome," or "No worries." The language became alive. I remember one moment clearly. I had a 20-minute voice chat with a girl from Italy. We talked about food. I was nervous, but I spoke freely. She laughed at my joke about burning rice and said, "Your English is good." I was shocked. Me, good at English? That one sentence gave me more motivation than any grammar book ever had. I smiled the whole evening. I also started helping others learn my native language. And something magical happened. When I taught, I learned. I had to explain things in English, which made me think deeply. I discovered how similar and different languages can be. This back-and-forth learning made me appreciate communication, not just language. In daily life, I started using English whenever possible. I changed my phone settings to English. I wrote my to-do lists in English. I described things around me. The sky is cloudy. I'm feeling tired. This tea is delicious. English wasn't just a skill anymore. It was part of my lifestyle. By the end of month 4, I had real friends who only spoke English. I had real conversations, not just practice sessions. And for the first time, I felt like a global citizen. English had opened a door, and I had the courage to walk through it. Month 5. Breaking the plateau. By the 5th month, I hit something I wasn't expecting. A plateau. I wasn't getting worse, but I didn't feel like I was getting better either. My progress had slowed down. I was no longer experiencing the excitement of learning a new word every day, or the joy of understanding something I once couldn't. Instead, everything felt normal, repetitive, stagnant. And that scared me. What if I had reached my limit? What if this was as good as I could get? But after a few days of frustration, I realized something. This phase was not failure. It was part of the process. Learning anything deeply means there will be plateaus. Just like when you're exercising, there comes a time when the beginner gains stop and progress becomes slower. The important thing is to keep going. And so, I changed my strategy. First, I switched up my materials. Instead of sticking to beginner-friendly content, I started watching English movies without subtitles, especially dramas where conversations are more realistic. At first, I missed half of what was being said, but I started catching tone, emotion, and expressions. I would pause, rewind, and mimic the dialogues. I repeated scenes until I could say them naturally. It was like training for a role in a movie, and it made English fun again. Second, I stopped being afraid of grammar. I picked up a grammar book. But not to memorize rules, I read it to understand structure. Every day I focused on one grammar point, just one. Present perfect, modal verbs, passive voice. I wrote 5 sentences using that structure and tried to speak those sentences during the day. Slowly, I gained more control over how I expressed myself. Grammar wasn't a cage, it became a tool. I also started journaling in a deeper way. I wrote not just what I did, but what I felt. I felt nervous today because I spoke to my teacher in English. I was proud of myself because I helped someone with a translation. This emotional connection made my writing more real. I could now express thoughts beyond, "I like pizza." I could write, "When I hear English now, I don't panic. I lean in." Most importantly, I learned to embrace silence. I spent time thinking in English without speaking, just sitting in a park, describing what I saw in my mind. The boy in the red shirt is eating ice cream, his mother is smiling. This quiet mental practice strengthened my fluency in a gentle, powerful way. By the end of month 5, I hadn't just broken the plateau. I had risen above it. My sentences were smoother, my vocabulary was richer, and my confidence, though still humble, was unshakable. I was no longer chasing fluency, I was living it. Month 6. The day I realized I made it. Then came month 6, the final chapter of this journey. I didn't start this month with a big plan. In fact, I felt peaceful, like I had reached a place where I was no longer struggling to keep up. But what happened during this month wasn't about techniques or tools. It was about moments, real, powerful moments that showed me how far I'd come. One day I got a surprise message from a company I had applied to months earlier. They wanted to schedule a Zoom interview, in English. My first instinct was panic. But then, I remembered everything I had done these past 5 months. I reminded myself, I've spoken to strangers, I've explained my thoughts, I've made jokes in English. I'm ready. I spent the next 2 days preparing. I wrote answers to common questions, practiced them aloud, recorded myself, and corrected my grammar. But more importantly, I worked on my mindset. I told myself, don't focus on sounding perfect. Focus on being honest. Be yourself, in English. The interview day came. My heart was beating fast, but as the interviewer smiled and asked the first question, something amazing happened. I spoke. Naturally. Confidently. I talked about my projects, my interests, even made a light joke, and the interviewer laughed. We had a real flowing conversation. After the call, I sat quietly and cried. Not because of fear or pressure, but because I had done it. Later that week, I received an email. I got the job. That was the moment I knew I had made it. But it wasn't just about getting a job, it was also about what happened afterward. I joined a team where everyone spoke English. I participated in meetings, sent emails, gave suggestions, and asked questions, all in English. Not perfectly, but comfortably. I had become someone who could live and work in a second language. 6 months ago, I could barely introduce myself. Now, I was part of a global conversation. So what changed? Not just my English, my belief, my discipline, my ability to keep going, even when it felt hard or boring or hopeless. English didn't just give me a language, it gave me courage. If you're watching this and feeling the way I felt in month 1, I want to say this to you. Don't give up. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Day by day, word by word. You'll get there. Because I did. Thank you for watching. Like the video if you've achieved something from it, and if it taught you something, then share it with a friend who might need it and subscribe to English Speak Avenue For more inspiring English learning, take care of yourself. See you in the next video. Goodbye.